Welcome to our Saturday simulcast, and a victorious coming for Purdue after the Boilermakers 44-19 win over Illinois. And I want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel. We appreciate them, and the Boiler Up Bar. It's probably a hopping place on this homecoming tonight, even this evening. And I'm joined by Tom Dienhart and Mike Carmin, who have seen a lot of Purdue football games over the years and know this wasn't the greatest game of all time, but Tom Dienhart, it was a step in the right direction a lot of ways, and Purdue really took care of business in the third and fourth quarters to make this pretty much of a laugher.
No adult beverages for you, Alan Karpick.
That's right. None at all.
We all need our beauty sleep, right?
Yeah, no
Always
question.
stay so youthful. Yeah, you're right, Alan. Win was much needed, obviously. We all know the circumstances of the first four games. We know about the 1-3 start. We know about the struggles on third downs, the struggles to contain quarterback rushes, just general inconsistency, the penalties, the turnovers. This wasn't a thing of beauty in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it was, right? Sort of cathartic, I think. Purdue has to be pleased with its offense. Number one, I think being able to run the football continues to be a real strength. I know this was just Illinois, so we have to temper everything we say, but still a nice win. Again, the ground game playing very well. Deion Burks being Deion Burks. And defensively, boy, dialing up that pressure, right? 5 tackles, 7 TFLs. I think there were 4 or 5 quarterback hurries I saw on the stats. And just a nice yeoman's effort by that group to bring the heat and make some big plays. And how about this, guys? Scoring a defensive touchdown. So good way for Purdue to end the month. We all know the to-do list remains long and difficult, but they should enjoy this one and maybe to give them some momentum and confidence.
Yeah, and Mike, some new faces that aren't new faces. Yanni Karloftis certainly made an impact today. Garrett Miller gets a touchdown reception. Don't know, you guys may know more about the Max Clare, whether anybody, and of course nobody ever comments about injuries anymore, so who knows where Max Clare is after, of course, the freshman tight end who had an injury in the third quarter, was it? But my point is, some new faces, and the wealth was spread, but also the old faces. Hudson Card, I thought, was very good in a lot of ways. Again, a good performance on down the line.
Well, again, another theme continues is, you can look at it, when Purdue does well on third down, both offensively and defensively, they win games. When they don't do well on third down, offensively and defensively, they lose games. I know it's a little bit more complicated than that. I am. I mean, that's why you pay me this money.
Oh, huge money.
But I mean, that's a recurring theme with this team. And but I think you also have to credit what they do on first and second down in both of those cases to put themselves in position. I think today their third down average yards to go was 5.5 yards. So that's a byproduct of what you did in the early downs to put you in a better position. But to me, the running game really stood out because you were going into the strength of the Illinois defense, that defensive line, and they dominated them up front, and they didn't let them get dominated. And I thought that was a big positive that allowed them to rush the ball as well as they did. And Alan would probably know the last time they've come close to rushing 200 yards against Big Ten teams was when. So
a long time ago.
Yeah.
No, actually, I think maybe in 2017 they did, but I have not researched that yet. But I will, and I'll let you know.
And defensively, they flew around. They played with, they got the lead. They played with the lead. And to me, I mean, if you go back to the Fresno State game when Purdue was up 11, 28-17, they had a chance. Yes. They were on a drive in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. They had a chance to punch that ball in the end zone, or at worst get a field goal, and they didn't do it. And then from there, Fresno State took over. Similar situation today. They took over in the third quarter. They got 3 touchdowns in the third quarter to really take control of the game. So is that a sign of growth from this team? Is that, what is it? Or am I making too much out of it because of who they were playing? But just for themselves to know that they were in that position, they're able to overcome what didn't happen earlier in the year and pull through and really deliver the knockout punch in that third quarter to give them a much needed win.
Well, and Tom, Illinois did have and you, I think, tweeted about it, the measure of momentum with the 53-yard field goal going into halftime, and you were kind of wondering where this game was going. Certainly, the score was 16-13 at that point, and then Purdue came out and took care of business, scoring 3 touchdowns. I mean, I guess what I'm always looking for right now is signs of growth and maturity and foundational type things. And yes, it was Illinois, but I think, again, the adjustments at halftime, limiting your turnovers, the 1 Maccabee fumble, the limit 3 penalties for 15 yards are all, at least from a growth standpoint, you can do that against anybody, and they did it today against a team that's one of the worst in the league, maybe, but still, these are all things that are kind of an organizational upgrade.
Yeah, you're right, Alan, and they needed this, like we said, and for them to clean up the penalty issue, for them to clean up the turnover issue, I think was big.
Yeah,
we talked about running the football as well, and the better play on defense. Mike talked about that, and Ryan Walters talked about that in the post game. How that really has been the key for them. If you want to really oversimplify things, it's the ability to get off the field and the ability to stay on the field. And I think Illinois was 2 of 13, and Purdue was maybe 8 of 13. Illinois was 0 for 9, I think, at one point.
Yeah,
and so that was, I think, encouraging for Purdue fans, and they made some coaching alterations today. After the game, I found out, maybe everybody knew this, that Graham Harrell was working in the box and Seth Dagey was working on the field, and that those roles have been reversed the first 4 games of the year, where Harrell was on the field and Dagey was in the box as the eyes in the sky. Well, again, they had Harrell upstairs and Dagey on the field. And then defensively, there was a similar change made where Kevin Kane went up to the box and Ryan Walters called the game on the field. So, I guess you give up, I asked Ryan about that in the post game, and I guess you always are, I guess I'm encouraged. You're always looking for solutions, right? Right. Things weren't working and they wanted to try something different. Kevin Kane worked in the box for Ryan at Illinois. He was his eyes in the sky. Ryan called the game on the field. That worked swimmingly. I think maybe they wanted to do the same on offense, maybe to give Graham Harrell a fresh perspective as well. So I think that was pretty noteworthy. And certainly maybe played a big role in Purdue winning this ball game today.
How do you guys both and on Devin Maccabee? And I thought it was also an important sidelight to this game as they put him back in. I mean, he did good things. I mean, obviously last year, I think through the entire 22 season, only had 1 fumble. If I remember correctly, this year, he's had the problems. He had one today. And yet, Tom and I have talked about this, and I think Carm, you would agree, he is your upside potential. Not that Tyrone Tracy isn't, but he is definitely a guy that other teams have to pay attention to. He's got to hang on to the football. But how did you view that? Just the fact that they stuck him back in there, was that a no-brainer from your view, or is that a sign also of maybe building confidence and trying to state the obvious and have a guy that can get the job done, but he's got to hang on the ball?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, Tyrone Tracy has clearly established himself as the number 1 running back on his team for right now. I think that there's no debate over that. But you're going to still need Devin Maccabee throughout this year, and you need to rotate those guys. One back cannot carry the load. They're going to need to run the ball effectively to have success with who they're going to face down here the last couple months of the year. But the other thing, I thought Devin Maccabee ran really, really hard today. I thought he brought a lot of physicality.
Welcome to the new open web. We're combining both offline and online.
There goes my ESPN question. I apologize. Keep going, guys.
But I thought he ran really hard, a lot of physicality. But he has to clean up those fumbles, and they're going to keep going back to him. I didn't read much into it that they put him back in the game because they know they're going to need him at some point. I mean, they just are. So you don't want to, eat into his confidence at all. He's probably already has some confidence issues with the fumbles. I'm sure that weighs on his mind just a little bit. He'll tell you it won't, but it does.
It does.
It has to. So they're going to need him, and I think you just kind of keep playing. You work with him from the fundamental standpoint of securing the ball and whatever new drills you need to come up with to make sure that he hangs on to it. Back in the old days, you had to carry a ball around school the next day to kind of get that ball security thing going. But they're going to need him. They're going to need Dylan Dowling in some situations as well. But
yeah,
they just have to keep working on it. And I don't see a scenario right now where he doesn't play in a game. I mean, I don't see that. Even though Tracy is clearly the number one running back right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's the reality of where they are. Though that's surprising because I really didn't see that, the way that but that's what happens in the football season. Sometimes things happen that you don't expect. All right, Tom, I appreciate your coverage of the Tiller Tunnel today. I want to get both your guys' quick comments on that. It doesn't have to be quick, but, I thought it was a good thing. Arnett Tiller today did shout. She seemed very happy. This, of course, today is the 6th anniversary of Joe Tiller's passing, which is hard to imagine. But I just thought it was a good thing. We've all kind of agreed that Tiller Tunnel is kind of the definition of a football term, or baseball term of a home run. It's such a good facility, good thing, I think, in terms of paying homage to Joe Tiller and what he did. But tell me, what was your thoughts as you watching? I know it was a quick ceremony, but an important one at that.
Yeah, I mean, just great to see a guy who made the impact Joe Tiller made get this type of a monument to him, if you will.
Yeah,
we talked before, Alan. We think this is better than a statue.
Oh yeah, no
this
doubt.
is much more visible, so it's going to be part of every television broadcast from Ross-Ade Stadium. And you know what? It's kind of funny. Arnett Tiller had a quote to the effect that, what, Joe would have liked this. He was a simple person, a no-frills person. Instead of some beautiful bronze bauble image of Joe Tiller, they actually have something functional and practical that's useful. And that's Joe Tiller, practicality, functionality, no nonsense, no frills. This tunnel can be used in a lot of different ways. So in some ways, that was sort of the embodiment maybe of what this tunnel is to Purdue and to Joe Tiller. So again, I'm thrilled for the family, thrilled for Tiller and his legacy, and good to see a lot of people. Guys, there must have been a couple hundred people there. I knew it was that big of a ceremony. I saw guys from the late 60s. I saw Rick Skabinski, Mark Durant. I saw Jim McKenzie. Of course, some of the more modern guys like Brandon Gorn. I talked to Brandon, Ian Allen. You can go on, and always good to see some of those guys that you're all familiar with too. So just a fun way to celebrate for Purdue fans. One of the two greatest coaches in Purdue football history.
And Ryan Walter said, Mike, in his first press conference, we want to have players here. It also are former players here. And the fact that you had guys from the Mollenkopf era on all the way up to the end of the Joe Tiller era is a big deal. But you covered Joe for a long time, and I think he would have liked. I think he absolutely, like Tom said, I think this is a tribute that he would. He had an ego, not a huge one maybe, but he did, and I think his fact, that he's the winningest coach of all time at this school. This is certainly fitting for him, and I agree, he would have liked it.
Yeah, I mean it's understated, but it's not. A statue probably would have been too much. He probably would have balked at that idea. I think we're all in agreement, and we know kind of the process that's happened over the last 10 or so years to have something here that honors Joe Tiller. That has been a hard thing to get done around here for whatever reasons that they didn't have really anything other than a road.
Yes, at the north end of the stadium.
Yeah, named after him for the all-time winningest coach in program history. And obviously there's a financial component to all this stuff that they do. And not that Joe Tiller will ever be forgotten, but I think there was a sentiment somewhere that, because of changeover in the athletic department, people that were not here under Joe Tiller, that maybe they were starting to forget about what Joe did. And as Tom said, this will be in the stadium forever, and this is something that you can have, you can see, that you'll promote, and it is functional, and it helps the program, and all those things come together, make it a wonderful gesture, and a fitting gesture for Joe. And for Arnett to give it the blessing that she did, I think is tremendous. And now no one will forget Teller. No one, they can't do it. But it's just been a long process to get something named after him, which shouldn't have taken this long.
It shouldn't have taken this long, but I'm glad that it
Right.
did. And actually, we can credit our mutual friend Tom Schott also, who always kept that torch going. Talked to Tim House, Purdue senior associate athletic director, that talked about, Tom had kept that fire burning even during that transition time, and we're all glad that it got done. Okay. Last word, guys. Tom, Iowa's struggling a little bit with Michigan State, though they're ahead as of this taping. Certainly, you're going to have an opportunity to in Iowa City to, on paper, this should be Iowa shouldn't run away from you, at least offensively. Purdue should be in this football game come Saturday.
Yeah, we'll see. Under Braun, Purdue had a lot of success up there, obviously, and you always know what you're going to get with Iowa. Kirk Ferentz has been there since 1999. Tough defense. They typically don't beat themselves. They want to punch you in the nose on offense. Hit you with some play action passes. So, it is what it is. It's a very intimidating environment. Their fans are right on top of the field there. Not much room between the sideline and the stands. So it'll be a very difficult environment. And we know Iowa's got a little urgency as well after getting shellacked at Penn State. So they want to protect their home field. And again, I'm sure revenge is on their mind for what Purdue's done to them in recent history. So, big challenge, but also a great opportunity for Purdue.
And Mike, Wisconsin, maybe, I don't know who the leader in the clubhouse is in the West Division. I mean, who is it? Is it Wisconsin? Maybe so. But that's the biggest victory of the Jeff Brom era came at Iowa City when they beat the number 2 Hawkeyes 24-7 a couple of years ago. That has nothing to do with this week, but opportunity and for something really significant for Purdue if they can find a way to get out of there alive next week. It would be an upset, certainly, but you have to think Purdue's going to be in that football game.
I would debate maybe the biggest win was when they went there before that and won that game on those win. 2, because that catapulted them into a bowl.
And there was that game against Ohio State also. But
I know there was.
Okay.
But no, it's another chance for Purdue. I don't think that they're going to have the same magic that Brom had against Iowa. But who knows? Maybe they game plan the same way, and they find the weakness in the secondary and exploit that. But there's a few things lacking in that situation as far as you don't have the NFL kind of receiver right now, but you still have a very speedy Deion Burks. But Purdue's going to have to figure out a way to run the ball against that defense. They're very stingy. They're going to have to be probably a little bit more creative on offense, try to move the ball. And then defensively, you need some takeaways against Iowa to really have a chance to knock them off at home. But we all know these last 2 months now begin a grueling stretch for Purdue. Yeah. They have a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a cushion now. They don't have to win every single game to reach a bowl, but they probably do need to surprise a team or two over the next 2 months to put themselves in a better position come the end of November.
Yeah, no doubt. Who would ever forget Anthony Mahungu?
Right,
he was the guy.
Whoever
made that great catch. I don't know who you probably might remember who the safety was for. Jeff Brom picked that up and they threw the ball to him, and lo and behold, they win that game, and that was a huge win.
Well, they went after the opposite corner. I can't remember his name, but they had an NFL player on one side, cornerback. I think his last name might have been Jackson. I'm not sure, but Brom attacked the other guy, and then afterwards he switched over to the other side after Purdue hit those 2 long passes.
And you know what? I don't think Anthony had another catch.
He may not have, but he's got hero status with Purdue football program.
The French Flash, certainly that was his big moment. All right, guys, thanks so much for your time as always. And I know you've got busy nights ahead, especially you, Mr. Dienhart, but we appreciate that. And we will look forward to this. We'll be talking to Tom probably about this time next week in beautiful Iowa City. So that'll be a good thing as well. But have a great week, everybody. Thanks all of you for watching and listening. And a reminder, you can in fact become a subscriber to goldenblack.com. We'd like you to become a member. There are specials out there. And we would appreciate that. But we also want to thank the Union Club Hotel for its sponsorship. We appreciate them as well. So have a great weekend, everybody. It made better for Purdue fans with the 44-19 win today. And we'll see you next week on our Saturday simulcast.